Or probably Mark, Mark and Engineer Nigos. Hi, Engineer Nigos. Would you like to lead the prayer?
Hi, ma'am. Sorry, kakaano ko lang. Hello po.
Okay.
Good evening to everyone. It's bow our head and close our eyes. Lord Almighty God, please guide us in this evening in our review session for environmental planning board exam. We are seeking for your guidance, and I hope you keep us in mind po. Panatilihin mo po sa amin na sana po gabayan mo po kami, Panginoon, na matandaan po namin lahat ng aming mapag-aralan ngayon hanggang sa aming exam. Tulungan mo po kami, Panginoon, lalo na po yung aming mentor na si Ma'am Ana Pulido. Salamat po ng marami sa tanging pangalan at karapatan ng aming Panginoon, tagapagligtas na si Kristo Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mark. Okay. I think we're now on regional planning movement. Good evening, everyone. So let me continue history and theory. So I'll try to share here. I'm just using data because I'm in the hospital. I'm caring for my 87-year-old mother. So please bear with me if pag paputol-putol, okay? But let me know kapag may hindi kayo marinig. So let me share my screen. Okay, so okay, can you see? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's time to by the way, for those who are new in this review group, please access Zoom recording so that you would be updated. So we're now on regional planning movement. So we have the first planner under the regional planning movement. His name is Sir Patrick Geddes from 1854 to 1932. So Geddes was a Scottish biologist. He's also a sociologist and city planner, accredited with introducing the concept of the region into planning and urban design. So he had a multidisciplinary background. Okay, so as you can see, because he's a sociologist, biologist, etc., and of course, he's widely recognized for that concept region. He's also known as the father of regional planning. So that's how famous Geddes is still today, okay? Because he's the father of regional planning. He's pioneering, because of his pioneering work in regional approaches, Geddes is often referred to as that. So having laid the groundwork for considering cities as part of larger interconnected regions. So he had these famous books. Okay, number one, City Development, a study of parks, gardens, and culture institute in 1904. Then Civics as applied sociology, 1905. Then third is Cities in Evolution. So he published this book in 1915. Okay. Let me see. So he popularized the framework folk work-based, and the planning method, survey analysis plan. So I usually call this SAP. So for easier understanding or recall. So survey analysis plan. So this is a precursor actually of rational, comprehensive or synoptic planning. So Geddes emphasized that, Geddes emphasized understanding that folk means people, and then work means economic base, and place, referring now to the environment as interrelated elements, forming the basis of sustainable communities. So his survey analysis plan insisted also on thorough systematic surveys as the first step in planning, foreshadowing modern, rational, and comprehensive planning methodologies. He also made extensive use of survey method. According to Geddes, planning must start with a survey of the resources of a region, of human responses to it, and of the resulting complexities of the cultural landscape. So he also, what else? He also advocated that before planning begins, there must be a detailed survey. So, okay. But this survey entails physical and social aspects of the area. So this ensured that planners responded not only to the environment, but also to the needs, behaviors, and aspirations of the people living there. This is a very important terminology, conurbation. So he coined the term, or yeah, he coined the terms city region and conurbation. Okay. So and conurbation means the conglomeration of urban aggregates that Geddes offered a vocabulary for thinking about large, interconnected urban areas, anticipating present-day megacities and urban corridors. He characterized also the life cycle of cities as the inflow. What is inflow? These are the waves of migration to large cities, or build up means overcrowding, or backflow, slum formations, and so on. So I will be going back to these concepts later. So please remember that inflow means the waves of migration, okay, to large cities, and followed by build up, overcrowding. Backflow means slum formation and central city decline, or central city blight, okay, and sprawling mass resulting in amorphoid spread. So later we will be seeing some more articulation on these terminologies, because they're important terms, which are, they are normal questions in board exams. So let me continue that Geddes also prophesied, okay, the ill effects of hyper-urbanization and the rise and decline of cities. So Geddes analyzed how cities grow and decline over time. He described how migration and economic opportunity lead to urban growth, but unchecked expansion can result in overcrowding. So um, he also not only overcrowding but a slum formation and eventual urban decline. So it's according to Geddes, it's a pattern visible in many cities. So and until today, and that's what it is still observed up to today. So each of these points helps explain why Geddes work remains influential. He moved urban planning from a city-centered discipline to one grounded in the realities of larger regions. Also, integrated natural and human systems. So, um, please also remember that Geddes advocated for uh, data-driven participatory approaches that are still central to planning today. Still on Geddes, he stressed the social basis of the city. So let's try to I'll try to discuss more on this. The social basis of the city, meaning that the relationship, okay, the relationship between people and cities and how they affect one another. Geddes believe that cities are more than just collections of buildings, streets. They're also living environments shaped by the ongoing interactions between people and their surroundings. So for Geddes, understanding the social dynamics within a city was just as important as analyzing its physical layout. He argued that successful urban planning depends on recognizing how people's daily lives, cultures, and economic activities shape the character of the people. He also, okay, the second bullet here, I'll try to read first. Geddes focused on individual action and voluntary cooperation, tempered by attention to relations with physical environment. He encouraged planners and citizens alike to take an active role in shaping their communities um, because he believed that real progress happens when individuals participate voluntarily and work together for the common good. Rather than simply following orders from above, however, he also emphasized that this cooperation must be grounded in a realistic understanding of the physical environment, such as geography, resources, and climate. So for Geddes, a city is at its best when people and place are in harmony, with planning rooted in both human and environmental realities. So moving on, we are now on the second important persona in this particular era, Sir Leslie Patrick Abercrombie. That's 1879 to 1957. Um, so English, Abercrombie was a leading English planner. In case you will apply like intelligent guess or something, you forgot who was the leading English town planner, so probably you may you may get a hint about an English last name like Abercrombie. Is it easy as a test taking technique, right? So we know when it refers to Spanish engineer, so the last name should be sounding Spanish, parang ganun. So here, he was a leading English town planner, so an architect who served on the post-World War II Barlow Commission. So let me read first. He later became professor of civic design and town planning at the University College London and is best known for his influential master plans for the post-war redevelopment of London and other British cities. Um, he is also best known for the replanning of London through the County of London. So there were two plans under his name, County of London Plan in 1943 and Greater London Regional Plan in 1944. But collectively called the Abercrombie plans. So like yes, the two important plans. And both plans aim to decentralize the population by relocating 1.5 or 1.25 people to new towns and rural areas. So his most significant contribution is the replanning, replanning of London. So particularly through the London Plan of 1943 and Greater London. Please remember the two plans. So he started also the new towns. So it was him who initiated the new towns movement in the UK, which included the building of Harlow and Crawley and the largest out county estate, Harold Hill in northeast London. The Abercrombie plan is credited for that, for starting that new towns. He also made or prepared award-winning plans for Dublin City and replanned or redeveloped Plymouth, Hull, Bath, Edinburgh, and Bournemouth, among others. So his expertise um was sought far beyond London, meaning even outside London. He worked on those award-winning urban plans. So for Dublin, took part also in the replanning and renewal of the major British cities, including those that I just mentioned. And then he founded, or yeah, he also had a strong interest in the countryside, founding the council for the presentation or the for the preservation of rural England. So I think you need also to be familiarized with this CPRE, CIPRE, the Council for the Preservation of Rural England in 1926. So where he served as the first chairman and later as honorary secretary. He was also knighted. During this time, when you say when they're addressed sir, so it is they have to be knighted to be addressed like Sir Leslie Patrick Abercrombie. So Abercrombie was knighted in 1945. So in 1945, he published also a plan for the city and county of Kingston upon Hull with the assistance of Sir Edwin Latiens. So there's another Sir here. So he must be knighted also. Then Abercrombie was or in recognition of Abercrombie's services, he was knighted in 1945. Okay. He was also commissioned by the UK government to redesign Hong Kong after World War II. So he was also tasked by one emperor to develop plans for the capital, which they call Addis Ababa. So is it difficult to remember? So by this time, you need to be familiarized with the narratives here, with the story, with the how it has evolved, how regional planning has evolved by starting off with um the names, important names. Just a moment. What else? His influence extended internationally. And that's why you can see Hong Kong and then Ethiopia's emperor having commissioned by Ethiopia's Emperor Haile Selassie to prepare those other plans for the Ethiopian capital. Then okay. So ikatlo na yan, ano? Patrick Geddes, then so there are two Patricks, right? Nung last time we had review class, meron dalawang Clarence, di ba? May dalawang, ano na yun? Someone can unmute? Who can remember yung mga same first name, same last name. Ngayon, first name ulit. Patrick Abercrombie and Patrick Geddes. Okay.
Frank Lloyd Wright and
Frank Lloyd Wright. Then
Henry Wright.
Henry Wright. Okay. So thank you. Now we had Benson McKay. So, it's also okay. So he was an American forester, conservationist, and regional planner, recognized as the father of Appalachian Trail or Appalachian Trail. So that's if you Google that, so it would be very interesting to discover why Benton McKay was called father of that, and he proposed the creation also of the Appalachian Trail. That's more than 2,000-mile footpath. So it's a footpath stretching from Maine to Georgia, and so he also championed the preservation of cultural and recreational spaces amid growing urbanization. Saglit lang ha. Yeah, let me just get some water. Okay. So where am I now? So he was a government planner. He spearheaded the idea of townless highway. And so working in government, McKay introduced innovative ideas like the townless highway. So he imagined movement he imagined movement and connection across landscapes without promoting uncontrolled town sprawl. So he was one of the founders of the Regional Planning also, a Regional Planning Association of America in 1923. He helped create this one. Is it RPAA? Okay, RPAA. So he also published his book, The New Exploration, A Philosophy of Regional Planning in 1928. By outlining his ideas on how large-scale planning should respect both ecological patterns and human needs. So he was Mackay was very prominent in his views about regional conservationism. He is remembered for his strong commitment to regional conservation. So he applied the transect. Okay, here. So is it small? He applied the concept of transect. What is a transect anyway? Transect method to vast river valleys. So a transect is a cross section of the landscape. Okay, so that you can imagine better. And the concept of transect to planning in large river valleys, showing how different land uses and ecosystems could fit together logically across a region. So, for Mackay, regional ecology always had to be rooted in the logic of natural systems rather than imposed patterns from urban or industrial frameworks. So that's what he meant by the second bullet, emphasizing the connection between regional ecology and natural systems. Also, still about Mackay, he contrasted cyclical organic relationships with the land, like those of farming or indigenous traditions, with a straight line industrial time. Mahirap bang ano, is it easy to understand? So I'll read this one. Cyclical time and organic interaction with the landscape emphasize planning that aligns with natural rhythms and site-specific qualities. In contrast to industrial time and engineering, which favor rigid schedules and technological solutions over ecological balance. In that particular line of thought, we can see here three ideas. So ridgeland areas offer or ridgeland areas maintain a natural equilibrium and support indigenous systems. So he believed ridgelands were areas of inherent ecological balance worth protecting. So valleys in contrast are often sites of concentrated industry or concentrated industrial activity and environmental stress. So Mackay, did I say Geddes kanina? Or it should be Mackay, okay. Mackay thought that valleys filled with industrial excess. And so in contrast, valleys were often the places where industry and excess accumulated, both physically and socially. In the third one, conservation efforts should be guided by deep analysis and a willingness to rethink conventional solutions. So, in other words, he believed in deeply understanding and sometimes radically questioning existing patterns in order to protect and wisely use natural resources. So, we can proceed. Okay, I hope you will remember Benton McKay. Now we are now on city functional movement. The city functional movement is, or it was meant to address, or was meant to respond to every aspect of city problems rather than focusing only on aesthetics or isolated solutions. For instance, it reacted to preoccupation with urban design of the City Beautiful movement. So, okay, so, and then the Garden City movement. Also, it reacted to, or it responded to the Garden City movement in the UK, which both, I mean, City Beautiful movement and the Garden City movement, according to, okay, in within this city functional movement, it both prioritize physical form and monumentality. So in contrast, this movement showed greater concern for the functions or for the functioning of cities rather than design or rather than aesthetics, which prioritize function over form. So there was also a focus or push for government efficiency. Also about progressive education and recreation and good affordable housing. So reformers within this movement sought to enlist businesses and civic organization to ensure that all segments of the urban population were represented in planning decisions. So the movement also emphasized opportunity rather than focus on economic and social evils of the city, shifting away from a mainly problem-based mindset. Ultimately, planning was aligned to broader fields of public service. So, yeah, connecting now city development to public health, education, and social welfare. And then here, focus on utility infrastructure and then use zoning rather than master planning. So there are, you can see here three three ideas under number 2 that zoning or the movement focused on utility infrastructure and on land use zoning rather than master planning. So it meant that planners concentrated on organizing basic services. So what are these? Water supply, sewage, transportation, and electrical grids rather than pursuing grand or all-encompassing urban vision. So zoning was designed to separate incompatible land uses. For example, heavy industry was kept apart from residential neighborhoods to protect healthy and property values. However, today many land uses are no longer exactly incompatible as there are already advances in technology, right? So if you've observed that, so there are also environmental controls, and also mixed use development have been a pattern, and so it because mixed use development allowed for more integrated urban spaces, and so ironically excessive zoning creates homogeneity instead of lively, um, diverse neighborhoods. So cities ended up with monotonous districts and reduced walkability. For number three, zoning originated in New York City in 1916 and introduced by Edward Bassett as the first municipal effort to regulate land use. Its main goals were to prevent factories from encroaching on the Fifth Avenue business district and to limit the shadowing of properties by new skyscrapers. So the particular purpose at the time was to contain the invasion of factories into the Fifth Avenue. So that's what it's trying to say. And the shadowing of adjacent properties by emerging skyscrapers. So this pioneering zoning ordinance set the pattern for city planning laws across the US and aimed to protect property values and preserve quality of life in growing cities. Still on city functional movement, so that's the fourth one. I will read first. So the constitutionality of zoning as an exercise of the state's police power was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty Company, leading to the term Euclidean zoning. So constitutionality of zoning as part of police power of the state was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1926 as a result of that case, Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty Company. So this was considered a landmark case. Still today, this is a landmark case which provided the legal foundation for cities across America to regulate land use through zoning ordinances. Because of this case, the system of separating different land uses through zoning became known as Euclidean zoning. So that's a term that remains widely used in planning today. Now we go to number 5. Edward Phelan and Justice Louis Brandeis, who produced Boston Plan of 1915 to 16. So Edward, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Phelan and Justice Louis Brandeis were central figures in this Boston Plan of 1915 to 16. Their advocacy demonstrated early efforts in the U.S. to move beyond isolated urban interventions toward a coordinated plan for the entire metropolitan area. So this plan highlighted the need for regional cooperation in transportation, land use, and economic development. So the concept was adopted in Germany, most notably in the 1910 Grundriss Plan, which served as the master plan for Greater Berlin, and later by Rudolf Hilbrecht in Hamburg. So here, it marked the beginning of comprehensive city planning in Germany and influenced how other cities approach urban growth and land use. So later, Rudolf Hilbrecht in Hamburg, Germany, became known also for applying zoning and functionalist planning to rebuild and modernize the city after World War II. In Rotterdam, the Netherlands, Helsinki, and Tapiola, Finland, and Melun Senor, France. These principles of functional zoning and master planning also spread to other countries. So in those areas, in those countries, Rotterdam, in Netherlands, and so forth and so on. So these ideas were applied in new town developments and urban reconstruction, adapting the movement's ideals to local context while responding to the demands of modernization and post-war recovery. So now we have a Spanish engineer who proposed the concept of the ciudad lineal or the linear city. So his full name is Don Arturo Soria Inata. He suggested or he envisioned an elongated urban formation running from Cadiz, Spain to Paris, and the rest of Europe. So extending as far as St. Petersburg, Russia. What else? So he argued that the logic of linear utility line should be the basis of city layout, meaning that houses and buildings could be set alongside linear utility systems, supplying water, communications, and electricity. So Soria Imata was among the early thinkers to consider the impact of technology on urban form. In his model, the linear city would have 5 functionally specialized parallel sectors. So, number 1, a purely segregated zone for railway lines, a zone of production and communal enterprises with related scientific, technical, and educational institutions. Then there's also a green belt or buffer zone with major highway. Then a residential zone including a band of social institutions, a band of residential buildings, and a children's band. So then a park zone, then lastly an agricultural zone with gardens and state-run farms. So there's also one in the Soviet Union known as the Sovkhozy. So as the city expanded, additional sectors would be added to the end of each band so that it would become even longer. So do you understand the concept that it's always growing or becoming longer without growing wider? So the model imagined that the city could keep extending linearly as the population increased. So the city may run parallel to a river and be built so that a dominant wind would blow from the residential area to the industrial strip, helping to keep living areas healthier by carrying away industrial pollution. So Ernst May, a German functionalist architect, would later formulate his initial plan for Magnitogorsk. I mean, it's difficult to pronounce, right? So Magnitogorsk. So it's a new city in the Soviet Union, primarily following the model established in Frankfurt settlements, which are identical, equidistant, five-story communal apartment buildings and an extensive network of dining halls and other public services. So this shows the influence of Soria Imata's linear city ideal in the later 20th century planning, especially in planned citizen workers settlements. So you can see all this.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, Ma'am Ann.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes,
can you hear me?
ma'am.
Yes po.
Okay. I'll just continue that because I'm finding it very challenging here. Okay. Sorry about that. Actually, I'm in the hospital, but I really wanted to continue. Let's see, share. Mm, okay, let me share again. So ito ba yung last?
Yes,
When,
ma'am.
when, okay, when you lost,
Yes po.
thank you. But you can see, right? It was difficult, ano? But anyway, this is a very interesting concept. So again, first thing, it's the city develops along a continuous line. And so it was proposed also by Arturo Soria Imata and what else? It's the model is an urban farm that organizes development along a single continuous axis. So typically a transportation or utility corridor. So, and these cross sections here illustrate how the city is composed of parallel bands or sectors. So each zone is designated for a specific function, such as housing, green belts, transportation, or industry, arranged side by side along the linear route rather than radiating from a central core. So other farms are also interesting, but this one it has become famous also during the time that it also shows or this show proposal, okay, like proposal for connecting the city of Madrid, pero hindi talaga ma-visualize, no? Connecting the city of Madrid to surrounding areas via a linear corridor. So extending the urban area without spreading outward into a circular pattern. So this one. So you can see other photos here that showing a main street or utility corridor for tramways, water, power, and communication lines that run through the center. Let's see this. And so residential buildings, schools, and community facilities are placed on either side, making all amenities accessible. Let's see the and also integrating green spaces throughout. Wala namang green dyan, so it should be funny to be explaining about green, that it's not, it's black and white, okay? So this approach allows for the city to grow endlessly in length, simply by extending the corridor and adding new sectors as needed. So okay. Like this one. So, I think this is the last slide for Arturo Soria Imanta. So here, we see how Soria Imata's Ciudad Lineal was originally imagined to connect with central Madrid. The city itself, of course, like, can you see this one? Okay, so the city itself is not circular or radial. Instead, it's designed as a continuous, okay? Continuous, elongated urban land or urban band that stretches out from the city core. So you see the okay. And then the configuration allowed the city to expand linearly following key transport or utility lines rather than sprawling outward in all directions. And so here, these are parks at the top. Parks, which serve as buffers and recreational spaces. So next to the parks are the dwellings or the residential areas, allowing people to live close to green space. And so below the residential zone is the road, okay, which serves as a main transportation corridor, enabling movement along the city's length. The green space, although it's not green, so please prepare with the drawing with the photo that it's a green space continues as a separating buffer between residential and industrial activities. So there are also factories here, which are or factories and railroads, which are sited farthest from the parks and homes to minimize conflicts between living and working environments. The diagram also shows the linear city model. Yeah, it uses strict functional zoning. Each activity, living, industry, recreation, has its own strict. This is different from the traditional compact city, where uses are often mixed or layered. So, why is it? Okay, let me see. Let me clean. Where's the wind? Okay. So overall, the linear city model demonstrates how cities can be planned to grow in a structured, sustainable way using transport and utility corridors as the spine of urban development. Again, each strip has a designated function. What are these? Parks, homes, roads, green space, factories, organized in a way that's logical, accessible, and environmentally conscious. So, it's quite long. Okay, ituloy ko lang saglit. Sige, last na ito. Okay, so 1042. Tony Garnier, he was a noted French architect and city planner. He's also an urban planner, considered a forerunner of avant-garde 20th century French architects. So, in 1901, after extensive study of sociological and architectural problems, Garnier formulated an elaborate solution. He aimed to use architecture to create industrial utopias that would help control unchecked urban growth and keep the working classes in line. So Garnier proposed a modern linear industrial city, okay, called Une Cité Industrielle, I think, which was designed for about 35,000 inhabitants living in the lushly landscaped residential areas. So unlike many planners of this time, Bernier removed churches and law enforcement buildings from his city plan. Can you imagine that? So was he an atheist? So you might ask that. So I keep reading about Tony Garnier. He unlike okay, so he removed churches and law enforcement buildings from his city plan, believing in line with the writings of Emile Zola. Okay, so he must be looking up to Emile Zola that man could rule himself in a well-organized society. So his concept was partially adopted in his hometown of Lyons, France, where some of his principles, is it? I think there's a letter S here. Where some of his principles found practical application. So the plan was founded on four main principles: functionalism, space, greenery, and high sunshine exposure. So functionalism here meant that the design was guided by the intended use of every space, prioritizing practical needs over ornamentation. So Gurnier's basic idea was to separate or his basic idea included the separation of spaces by function, zoning the city into four main categories. So what are these four main categories? Leisure, recreation, industry, work, and transport. So by keeping these categories or by keeping these categories distinct, he hoped to create a healthier and more efficient urban environment. So lastly, his plan allowed vocational schools to be near um, the industries or near related industries. So to which they were related, making it easier for people to connect their education directly to work opportunities. So if you can see this one, we look, may copy naman kayo, right? So, I mean, this is the rationale of this one, that he placed vocational schools near related industries so that education would be more accessible, and there should and it's easier to establish what you call this one, synergy between employment opportunities and education. And so if you look at this one, yeah, okay, can see heavy manufacturing industries here. Melting, is it smelting factories? Cannot even see. Then there's residential area over here. Water supply over hydro, textile, farm cemetery, and administration. So can you see some schools here? So I think this one. There's also the old city. Can you see the rationale here of Tony Garnier City Industrial, right? So Yun lang natin yun. That, okay. So I think we can end here. Do you think this one is ideal based on how Tony Garnier viewed, his in modern linear industrial city? So it's interesting because this is related with Soria Mata. So it's more generic for Don Arturo Soria Mata as a Ciudad Lineal, but here he specifically designed a modern industrial city. And anyway, so I'll end here. So I'll stop here so that okay, Jen, you can take it away.